The gravity of the time is such that every new avenue of peace, no matter how dimly discernible, should be explored. Never before in history has so much hope for so many people been gathered together in a single organization. You will provide a great share of the wisdom, of the courage, and the faith which can bring to this world lasting peace for all nations and happiness and well-being for all men.
Welcome to another episode of Titans of Nuclear. Our guest today is Carlo Wolters, the CEO of EPZ in the Netherlands. Carlo, great to have you on.
Hi, Michael. Thank you for having me.
So this is an episode that, frankly, I thought we had already done. So it is great to finally get you on and hear about your fantastic background and the work that you're doing in the Netherlands. Before we get to that, maybe tell us a little bit about yourself. Where are you from originally?
Well, I'm from the Netherlands. I still live there, by the way, from the southeast. That's a very small part of the Netherlands, very close to as well Germany as Belgium.
Okay, so all the way in the corner, and you grew up there then your entire childhood.
Yeah. Well, I grew up there, and actually I studied there, and also got my first job there. It's a pretty international environment, by the way.
And what were those? Tell us about that trajectory. What did you study?
Well, I grew up in a small farmer's place, and everybody who lives there starts working in agriculture, I would say. Also, as a kid, you are used to work on the land, but also in that area, it's an old mining area as well. And these coal mines were closed already in the 70s, and a replacement for that was the chemical industry. So I grew up with looking at, let's say, big plants producing all kind of stuff, and that attracted me. So I went to a school and trained to become an operator in this industry.
Okay, so you looked at the field and you said boring. You looked at the big structure and you said that looks cool. I want to go do that. Yeah.
Okay.
Amazing. Okay, so you studied to be an operator, and then did you start in the chemical industry?
Yeah, well, actually, I started this school for becoming an operator, and then in the third year, you need to work at different places. And working there, I started to challenging, let's say, things I saw there, like, okay, how do they maintain these systems, and is that appropriate how they do it? So I don't know how I did it, but at a 17-year-old, I called the manufacturer and asked for the maintenance schemes, and concluded that this company had the best manufactured piece of equipment ever because it didn't need any maintenance, and it was still working. But later on, I went to a larger chemical company in the same year, and that was at the ammonia plant. And there I got into contact again with CY Geigy. I just phoned them and asked how the stuff was working. And then the plant manager of that plant asked me, "What are your plans for the future?" I said, "I don't know. I guess working." And he said, no, that's not a good idea. The stuff that you try to find out, at least you should go a little bit further in your education and start a bachelor. And that's what I did. And later on, when I really started working, I studied at the university at Twente.
Amazing. Okay, so you had this mentor that said, "Hey, you should go do this," and you said, "Okay, well, I trust him." So you went back to school, and then what did you do after that? Hey, did you go back to the same company?
No, I studied chemical engineering, and afterwards I was supposed to start working at this chemical plant, which is a huge facility, by the way. And they said, well, if you start working here, we give you time off so that you can also go to university. So that was the deal.
I see.
But before I started there, I was also approached by another company, which was trying to set up at that time a coal gasification unit. They were building a demonstration unit. And I thought, well, this is amazing. It doesn't exist. So then I joined them with the same condition that I was able also to go university a day per week. So then I ended up in coal gasification and stayed in that business for about 18 years.
Wow. Yeah. So did you get some plants built or what? Yeah. Tell us about that process.
Yeah, this coal gasification plant, actually what it did, it gasified coal, and with that producing carbon monoxide and hydrogen, and this gas, synthesis gas, was burned in the gas turbine, and we produced clean coal power at that time. I started there very early, in the early stage, so it was still in the engineering phase. And later on, I was one of the first that went actually to the site to be involved in commissioning. And then I became the chemical engineer for certain part of that plant, and ended up in operations, and eventually I was the plant manager for that unit. And of these units, I think, many of them were sold to different countries in the world. Among others, there was the license holder sold a lot of these units in China. And later on, I also helped some of these Chinese units to overcome their teething problems.
So I think one of the themes in talking to you in other conversations, a lot of international travel and best practice, both you gaining and you sharing, I think.
Yeah, I like to travel internationally. I think that's important. Otherwise, you cannot do that for such a long time. But for some reason or another, I always end up in technologies or business areas that I was not involved in before. So I think also, let's say, new stuff really excites me.
Yeah. Okay. So 18 years coal gasification. Then what?
Well, during that period, I next to my normal day job, I also founded a consultancy company, and that company also provided services really globally. And let's say the end of that was that I was considering to move to China at that time to run the operations of several of these units. But the company I was working for at that time, it was a utility. They were founding an E&P department, so exploration and production. And I thought, I never did that before. So I asked them, can I join that department? And they agreed. And so I ended up, before I moved to China, I ended up in this exploration and production department. And the people that were working there, it was a very small group of, let's say, 10 people, but they came really from the oil majors and some consultancy companies. So yeah, it was a great opportunity for me to learn that business.
What did they say when someone that had just done coal gasification said, "Hey, I want to do upstream oil and gas"?
Yeah, actually, I was running at that time this coal gasification facility and also some other units like gas storage units in Germany. I had a couple of hundred people working for me, and then I joined a small team. So people said, "Oh, you have a decent job. Why are you want to participate with us?" But anyway, I thought, well, this is an opportunity that it's there, and I took it. And since we were working in a utility company, I came from the utility, and none of the other members of the team. So I could bridge also, let's say, the oil and gas business to the utility, ways of working and the hierarchy that is there.
Yeah, fascinating. Okay, so you joined this small team, and what was your role on this team then? There weren't plants to operate yet.
This team, the utility bought, let's say, the business from another company. So we had shares in like 37 reservoirs in southern North Sea, in platforms and pipelines, etc. And I was one of the asset managers. So taking care of, let's say, our part of the business. And later on, when we acquired a business in the UK, I became responsible to integrate that business in our existing asset base.
Very interesting. Okay, so tell us about that projection then, and how you ended up in your next thing.
Yeah, well, at that time the utility was Nuon. That's a Dutch utility, and that was bought by Vattenfall, the Swedish company. And when they took over Nuon, I got the question if I would like to become the asset manager for their thermal units across Europe. I thought, this is another great opportunity with the base in Berlin, by the way, and I went there. And from there, I was first asset manager for the thermal units, then for entire production. So that was thermal, including the nuclear units in Germany, some hydro. Wind was ramping up at that time, but also the lignite plants. And thereafter, I became the asset manager for entire Vattenfall. So I think I saw all the ways, all the technologies that are there for producing electricity.
Amazing. Yeah, so you joined this small team looking for something new, and you ended up back with a larger remit than you started with.
That's how it works. Yeah.
What were what was your biggest lesson learned from seeing such a wide variety of different assets and different ways to operate those assets?
I think it's important to always treat your business serious. Do your homework, know what it's really about, and go out there and talk to the people who are really running the business. So, for instance, when I was the asset manager for all the units in Vattenfall, I went everywhere, from, let's say, North Sweden, the hydros, to the lignite plants. And since I was responsible for their entire investment portfolio and also long-term maintenance, if you are there, you can have the good discussions with the people that work there. So you know what they really need, the money they really need, or maybe not so urgently. You never find that out from behind of your desk. You really need to go there and talk to the people. And if you have a good story, people always want to help you. I think that's my main lesson.
Yeah, very interesting. Speaking of good stories, I know in even my limited experience working with different plants, there's always a couple good stories of a plant budget that comes in that, you're like, what the heck is this? Any good stories that you can share with us?
Yeah, well, I saw some units that, for instance, they had the long-term maintenance for a steam turbine in their budget, and they never planned to really do that. So they were postponing that every year to the next year to the next year. So they always were, let's say, spent less money than their budget, but they were just postponing it all the time. I think it was in the amount of maybe 2 million euros per year. So yeah, when I found that out, it was end of story, of course.
Yeah, I guess that's one way to come in under budget. Okay, so you're managing this huge portfolio. Tell us about the transition to EPZ.
Yeah, at one moment in time, I think it was early 2015, I guess. I got a call from a recruiter, and he had a position in this portfolio for the CEO of EPZ. And then I asked, well, okay, what is still left then in EPZ? Yeah, he said, well, a coal-fired unit and the nuclear. And I said, well, a nuclear unit, well, I don't have any experience with that. So maybe you can, you can look further and find a better suitable candidate. So thank you for calling, but yeah, I think I'm not the right person for that. But I think in 2 months later or something like that, he called again, and I said, "Well, I told you already, I'm not your guy." But I think he heard from several persons that they should contact me, and then I agreed. I would pay a visit to the recruiter to have a talk. Yeah, and then all of a sudden I was in an interview.
But I mean, yeah, did your mind change during that process? Was there a moment or a series of moments that you said, well, you know what, maybe this is interesting, or maybe I do add value?
Yeah, because when I became responsible for this coal gasification unit at a very young age, I became very aware of safety and processes with high risk, and also how to mitigate the risk with well, let's say, a proper operations and a good understanding of the people that need to deal with that. I think there I built up a little bit of a reputation. That was the reason why they asked me. And then when I had to talk with the recruiter, he told me, yeah, he said, let's be honest, there is something to do there. Maybe safety culture wise that needs improvement in the unit. They just got an OSAT report, which was not so good. I did not know what an OSAT report was, by the way. But when the recruiter started describing the issues, I got very curious. I thought, what is going on there? And actually, curiosity drove me into the direction of the nuclear plant. And I also asked a colleague at the time in Vattenfall who knew me, and he was working in nuclear and also knew the nuclear business. So I asked him, well, you know the business, you know me, what would you recommend me to do? And he said, I would do it if I was you. So that, together with my curiosity, I jumped into it.
Wow. Yeah. Very cool. There's like an interesting theme to pull out there, right? That I feel like sometimes the nuclear industry treats itself as wholly unique and different. But I think your story exemplifies that, well, no, it's not that different. There's lots of process plants, there's lots of chemical facilities, gasification plants that have a lot of lessons that could be applied, right? And best practices. And then if you think about it that way, you have 10,000 different peers, not 400. And so it really changes the approach. And yeah, I mean, yeah, maybe walk us through the first few years and how you brought that different lens to the plant.
Yeah, maybe start with when it comes to a nuclear safety culture, it depends a lot on people. And I think it doesn't really matter if you're running, let's say, an oil platform or a chemical facility or a nuclear one. I think you need to be very authentic to safety. Then it's possible. It's not only about the rules, etc. It's about the attitude, I think. And of course, yeah, when it goes wrong in nuclear, it's totally other business than in any other industry. So you need to be very, let's say, sensitive to that. So, but anyway, when I arrived there, I started reading the OSAT report of IEA. I also went to Vienna and asked the team. Well, I read the report, but can you also tell me what is not in the report? What should I read? Let's say between the lines. And well, they had a lot to tell, and I think in the beginning that I was there for the first maybe month, I just spent time together with the employees on shop floor. I attended shifts. I went to maintenance, to all the other departments, and not necessarily. I apologize for that, also from hindsight, but I did not focus too much on the management at the time, but more on the people to find out what is going on here? And what I noticed that there were, well, a number of things that went also quite good in the plant. And what they had in common was that, let's say the employees, the really shop floor employees were involved in these, let's say, improvements or the things that went very well. And I thought that's the key to bring, let's say, responsibility and contribution to solving issues very low in the organization. And we founded several improvement teams, like you would have in lean manufacturing. And of course, we did not use that name for it, but people started working on solving smaller issues, and based on the progress that came with that, we also were able to touch upon the more bigger issues that were addressed by IEA in the OSAT report. But in the same way as the smaller items were solved, also the bigger issues were solved. And I think it was quite a record in collecting recommendations and suggestions from IEA in 2014, but also it was quite a record in how quickly these topics could be solved. And yeah, I believed in that the organization, the people could do it, and they proved to do it. So that, yeah, it was very, yeah, happy. I was very happy to see that really worked.
Yeah. Yeah, very cool to step in and sort of allow the team to thrive, right? I mean, that's really what you're describing is an organic sense of buy-in, and then some small wins become big wins, and success begets success, right?
I did not know anything about nuclear when I started. So yeah, you completely dependent on the team as well. But that is always how it works. People know what they are doing, and everybody goes to work to do a good job. But you need to find the trigger to spark that again.
Fascinating. Okay, so that was sort of your first steps, first handful of years in the role. What then? You still had the coal plant, you had some other plants. What was, how have the last few years evolved, and what has been your focus?
Yeah, well, in the first year also we closed down the coal-fired unit, and that was, yeah, we were working on the project to get the demolition started, but well, my motto is, and I built that up very early already, was either we work safe or we don't work at all. And that led to the fact that much better than previously expected, we started preparation of the demolition of the coal-fired unit, and that took years and years until we were satisfied enough to demolish that coal-fired unit. And of course, a project demolishing a coal-fired unit next to a nuclear facility, that means some more focus than maybe normally was put on a demolition project. We had, let's say, requirements to the contractor that no piece should fall from a higher elevation than 2 meters, for instance. And this contractor said, we never did that before. I said, yeah, that's a requirement here. You either step in or not, but this is how it works.
Why such a low threshold? I mean, if it were like
I did not want to have any vibrations or whatever in the soil that maybe could lead to a scram of the reactor. I really wanted to avoid that, and it succeeded. We did not have any personal incident in this entire demolition project. And I think that's quite unique in the world. But after this, we continued focusing mainly on safety for the nuclear unit, and later on I said, okay, availability is important as well. Not forgetting about safety, but let's see how we can break that together. And then from there, we got better and better all the time. By the way, currently we have more than 3,000 days without any incidents.
Amazing. Practically your whole tenure.
Yeah, that's correct.
That's incredible. Okay, well, fantastic. So, what do you see in the future? What's the next thing on your list?
When we got more, when it became much better, let's say from a safety point of view, and also from reliability, and the projected end of lifetime of the nuclear facility is 2034. So, well, the objective to bring the unit safe and reliable to there. But then I start thinking, well, if we become good as an operator, who knows? Maybe we will get the question in the future if we can extend our lifetime. But I thought first we need to be ready for that ourselves. And then in 2020, I dared. It was January 2020. You know, that works in the beginning of the year. You are in the canteen, all the employees are there, and then you show, well, you have your speech and you give some perspective. And then I said the first time, and it was very daring at the moment, that, well, if we become recognized as a good operator, we might start thinking about maybe lifetime extension. And it was the first time that I mentioned that at all. And it was, of course, welcomed by the people. And later in the year, I got more courage even. And then I wrote a piece of paper with a vision for the company, which included lifetime extension and 2 new build units. And at that time, it was, I think, completely inappropriate to talk about new build in the Netherlands. But anyway, we wrote it on a piece of paper, and as a nuclear plant, you get a lot of visitors, and all the politicians that came, whoever came, we handed over this vision. I think we started with that in November 2020. So let's say after the same year as first dared to speak about extension. And after the government fell in the Netherlands and a new coalition was formed, this vision was 1-to-1 in the coalition agreement in the Netherlands.
And how did that come about? Just because you were talking to people and it just got picked up, or did you, were you more actively sort of talking to people about your view of energy supply for the Netherlands?
At that time, it was really us explaining the vision, why we thought nuclear could contribute to the energy transition in the Netherlands, but it was very low key. It was we only talked about that on our own premises, and people came to visit us, but it was picked up by the right people, and I think it also helped. We were quite humble, and we thought, well, let's start talking about it, not going to the media directly, but start very humble and try to build it up, and all of a sudden it went quite quickly.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely been, I think, like many countries, the Netherlands has come out quite strongly in support of new nuclear really over the last couple of years, right? I mean, do you see that momentum continuing to pick up?
Yeah. And you see the environment for nuclear nowadays in the Netherlands is quite good. The government announced that Borselen, that's our site, EPZ site, is the preferred site for 2 big units, so the generation 3+ units. And the government started a project on that, in which we will be involved at the end, but the government started that. And I think one of the reasons, certainly, that you cannot exclude nuclear in the Netherlands is maybe a little bit background on that. In the Netherlands, we had a huge natural gas reservoir, one of the biggest in the world. It's in the north of the Netherlands. It's an onshore gas field, so to speak, and that was found in, let's say, in the 50s. And based on this huge amount of cheap natural gas, the Netherlands attracted quite some industry that was interested in this cheap source of energy. But also the majority of the houses in the Netherlands are heated with natural gas. But now, due to the energy transition, but also due to the fact that this huge gas reservoir led to earthquakes in that part of the Netherlands, this is now closed, this gas field. And although we are a very small country, our primary energy consumption is like 3,000 petajoules. It's about 750 terawatt hours, which is a lot, certainly for a small country. And we can never produce that amount of energy by our wind and projected solar farms in the Netherlands. So we need to have other sources as well. Can be import, but yeah, of course. every country wants to import energy. So we it's why I believe we really need nuclear energy in the Netherlands as well. And yeah, a big unit only produces 12 terawatt hours a year. So compare that to the 750 that we use currently, and that's primary energy. Only 20% of that 750, let's say, more or less, under 20 terawatt hours of electricity is consumed in the Netherlands. But that will triple in the electrification. So there is plenty room for CO2 neutral power in the Netherlands.
Yeah, I think you tied up a lot of macroeconomic themes in a very succinct way. But yeah, I mean, this idea of continuing to grow both energy needs and critically electrical needs in a country that is industrial like the Netherlands, it's going to be an exponential increase in demand, right? So tough to do that, 8 hours a day on its own.
Yeah, and what you see is that also the industry realizes now that for this electrification, well, you need cables. And that's quite a topic in the Netherlands. I think when you now call the grid operator that you are, well, the first one in 10 years from now. But also industry realizes now that let's say the commodity in those cables is rather intermittent based on wind and solar. But that's not the type of power that most of the industries need. They want base power. Well, I think that's a good case for nuclear in the Netherlands.
Yeah, no question. No, very exciting. What else? What role do you see EPZ playing in these new build units? And what else are there other things on your strategic plan that you are considering?
The unit that we run will become 50 years in October 23.
Wow.
So yeah, our company has quite some experience. Although our portfolio, of course, is very small, but in years we have quite some experience. So I expect that we will be involved in these big projects in the Netherlands, at least to give input to the project phase on operational aspects, but also on the licensing process. We have a lot of experience with that. And you also see now quite some discussions in the Netherlands on small modular reactors. I think when you look at the definition of small, we in Boston have already one. And by the way, on this site in 1969, there were already positioned 6 units. So they never came. We only stuck with one. But you see that there is a lot of discussion on SMRs. You see now some chemical industries talking about that. Also some provinces in the Netherlands that talk about SMRs. Yeah, I think that when there will be SMRs in the Netherlands, and we are the only nuclear operator in the Netherlands, that would be a good case for us to be involved there as an operator or as a license holder or whatever role that would make sense. We have a good relationship with our regulator. We know each other, and of course in the Netherlands, if you want to build a new plant, a sound operator should be involved. Yeah, I think we will qualify for that.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, it's come a long way since 2020, and your sort of humble vision of a license extension and yeah, exploring all of these different things, small by all senses of the word, right? It's a big range. It's got to be pretty exciting. Has the team reacted as well? I mean, is the broader company excited about all of these new activities?
Yeah, and of course, since our current, let's say, remaining lifetime is until 2034, that's not that far away anymore. Well, of course, also in the demolition phase of a nuclear plant, you need lots and lots of people. So there is no worry for people that they would leave their job, but it's of course much more excited when you can be involved in new projects. And this year we have a staff base of, let's say, 400 people now in Borselen. This year we hired more than 50 new people, and especially the new people, they really ask, well, okay, how is the new build plans, and they really want to be involved. And that's also what we see, is that a lot of young people are very interested in nuclear new build. And I think when plans in the Netherlands are really announced, that attracts even more students than there are now. So I'm quite positive of that. I think we have all the, let's say, the disciplines in house for also to be involved in new initiatives. Of course, with our small staff base, that's too limited, but we know what we're talking about, and we can train also new employees to be involved in that.
Amazing. Yeah, it's got to be a really exciting time, and I can't wait to see what the future holds. With the last few minutes we have left, anything that we didn't talk about that we should have?
Yeah, I think when you look at, let's say, the sizes of units, we have the big ones. I really see them as let's say, the working horses of a grid. Then you have, let's say, the SMRs that can, let's say, provide electricity for, let's say, for bigger industrial areas. But of course, you also, and you know that you also have the micro units, of course, and I think they have a very special, a dedicated task in helping the industry to electrify. So I see this all working together in one system, and I think what they all have in common, that you need to treat this, let's say, this industry very serious. There are of course risks involved, but if you know what you're doing, I think you can run this business safe and make the energy transition possible also here in the Netherlands.
Amazing. Well, you're the perfect man to do it. So very exciting stuff. Thanks again for coming on. It was really great. Any last words or pieces of advice to leave our listeners with?
No, I don't think really. I think, well, don't exclude nuclear. I think we are ready for the renaissance.
Love it. Awesome. Thanks so much, Carlo.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you for having me.
And initiate at least a new approach to the many difficult problems that must be solved in both private and public conversation if the world is to shake off the inertia imposed by fear and is to make positive progress toward peace.